Anyway, to close this program up, and then we'll look at the ratings and determine what's gone on. They had been building all night to, MJF and Danielson. We're going to hear from Danielson. They did a package on MJF and Danielson leading up to the title match. And this is sometimes the highlight of the WWE programming. But honest to God, I mean, yes, Sockface was a talking head and he looks ridiculous and brings the whole thing down to an indie level. But I don't know, besides the fact they had nice footage of Danielson in the mountains, as I'm watching this package and hearing it from their own lips, I don't know that this whole story between these two guys has clicked. And that...
That's what I've been saying for weeks. It not only has the story not clicked, I don't think they've clicked. And I don't think this has worked for Danielson. Danielson coming out there acting like a little bully on the mic, I believed. Whatever's been going on with Danielson for the last several months, and especially with the MJF feud, has not clicked at all. This is not the way to use him, and this has not worked. And he's not good in it. He hasn't been. We have to say that. Bryan Danielson has not been good in the outside of the ring stuff to elevate this feud. It's been all MJF, and maybe that's why he's overdoing it at times with some of the things he's talking about.
Yeah. And there's no story. The story doesn't really click with you because, wait a minute. MJF hates Danielson. One of the lines that was, I hate you because you've had more concussions than anybody else in my sport. But you're still here.
Why would you hate him for that?
I know it's there somewhere, but it hasn't come out. It's too cloudy or whatever. It's not clear. Magic 8 Ball says try again. I don't fucking know. But they've booked a match that the absolute markiest mark audience, not the fans. I don't call all fans marks. I call the people that buy the trampoline shit marks. And the people that book for the people who like the trampoline shit. They booked a match that the trampoline gang will love. Oh, they've got to go 60 minutes and most falls, and it's Iron Man, and it'll be so technically brilliant with Danielson and blah, blah, blah. You got to sell the goddamn thing first. Instead of putting together a mark stipulation that the markiest of marks will want to see, this should have been highly personal, with MJF not doing the babyface's work for him and taking heat off himself with talking about how he got broke up with his girlfriend. He ought to be talking about how he's got 3 of them and none of them know the other one exists, and he's fucking them all. The way you get normal men to be jealous of you instead of people whose pussy is not a fucking option to begin with. It just, I don't know. But anyway, after the package, they went to the break with 8 minutes left in the show. They've got to do a 3-minute commercial break, come back with 5 minutes left, and we're going to hang around for this big happening that they only gave 5 minutes to. And when they come back, Danielson's already entering the ring because you can tell they were running late. And Renee's introducing him while he's on the fly. And he's got his own microphone because, again, I hate to say it, but Bryan is one of the modern group that thinks he should be in there emoting with his own microphone instead of being interviewed by the network sports analyst. But nevertheless, they're calling Renee Moxley Good a sports analyst. So I digress. He starts his promo and MJF music plays. And MJF comes out and Danielson says, shut up. And then goes off on MJF and all the reasons supposedly that MJF hates him. But now at least he brought a little clarity to that in saying, you hate that I have these things and you don't because I've earned them and you've done nothing to earn them. At the last minute, he's trying to speak to normal, logical adult people who haven't understood what the fuck's going on up till now. And he did a nice tell-off of MJF, and Bryan. MJF for once just stood there and took it, and then right as Danielson spoke his last word, my DVR froze because it was fucking 10 o'clock. Time to go. And they went. But that was the go home. This is going to be an interesting situation this weekend that we're going to be covering on the drive-thru in terms of this
1 hour match. A 1 hour match. What has led you to want to see these two guys? Maybe it'll be a classic. I hope it is. And they're both excellent in the ring. Maybe it will be. But in terms of the week-to-week build-up, in terms of this feud, there's nothing that has set up a desire to see these guys in a 1 hour Iron Man match. I want to see them have a match, kick the shit out of each other for 12 minutes, because it seems like they both have some kind of anger issue directed at the other one. But
animosity.
But a 1 hour Iron Man match? What has been done in this to make the audience want to see that?
And some people are going to say, well, what was it about the NWA World title that all those bookers booked 1 hour draws? The answer was simple. It was a match that was advertised as a match. It wasn't advertised as a match that had to go a certain amount of time or that there was whatever the case. And the deal was, and I'm going to give you an example in a second of modern day, but the deal was that when the traveling champion came to a territory, you didn't want him in most cases to beat your top babyface. And if he did beat the top babyface, chances are it would be with a fuck finish of some kind, holding the tights or some illegal means to give the babyface an out because he had to come back the next week. The champion was off to another place. And sometimes the champion, yes, especially during the Sam Muchnick days, would win, especially win in the end. But if you wanted to get multiple matches out of it, you would do a draw so they could come back with a 90-minute time limit, or you would do a draw just so the babyface wasn't embarrassed by being beaten or even fucked in his hometown. The fans thought, well, the next time maybe he could really beat the champion because the champion couldn't beat him this time, that type of thing. But this is the hour Broadway NWA title match got romanticized by the modern wrestlers as some kind of badge of honor of being able to do that. There were NWA champions you didn't necessarily want to see go 60 minutes, but they had to, but it would have been better if they hadn't. Well, now these days you don't have to. There's more options. But the romanticization amongst the wrestlers and the really hardcore fans of they went an hour, it's like a rite of passage, and they've come up with different ways to do it. But again, sometimes you have an arena or a match that needs a stadium. Sometimes you have a stadium that needs a match. And a lot of times these days, instead of a match that needs a stipulation, you got a stipulation that needs a match. Figure the stipulation first, then put the match together. And that's backwards. And I think that back in 2009, in Ring of Honor, when Adam Pearce was the booker, I think it was Tyler Black and Austin Aries. And he said, whatever they had done, he didn't want to switch the belt, but he didn't want to beat. I think at the time, Black was champion and Aries was challenging, I believe. He didn't want to switch the title. He didn't want to beat either guy right then. It was Christmas final battle in New York. And he asked me, he said, what do you think? Should we do an hour Broadway? I said, well, can they go an hour Broadway? And it was Tyler Black and Austin Aries, and say what you want about Aries, but he was a good performer. He said, I think they can do it. I said, well, then my advice is do it then. If you don't want to switch the belt, you don't want to beat the other guy, yes, do an hour Broadway, but make sure that everybody on the card knows that you're doing an hour at the end so they don't go out there and go all night like they do a lot of times, because then the New York fans especially will turn on the goddamn match because they've been there for too long already and they want to get to the meat of the matter. So keep the undercard matches short. Well, guess what happened? Not only did the undercard matches not listen to Adam and stick to their times, but that's one of those times that Teddy Hart and Jack Evans and that fucking crew had got sideways somewhere, who knows, at a crack house or whatever the fuck, and came in late. And he told them that they had missed their match, so they went out and did some kind of routine where they took a bunch of bumps anyway. And then it started snowing. And so now the show had gone long and it's snowing outside in New York. And a lot of these people, because it's New York, they use public transportation and they're wanting to get the fuck out of there. And then Aries and Tyler Black are going an hour. So if they do the same thing, I'm not going to say it's going to snow in San Francisco, but if they do the what they always do, and Tony lets all these jackoffs masturbate to themselves and indulge themselves with these 30-minute marathons, and then they put an hour match in the ring at 11 o'clock local time, it might not work out. And they got to be aware of that.